just pulled up. We're going to go meet Erik Paulson.
Alright, let's get started. First, Erik, I want to thank you very much for letting me come here.
My pleasure, thank you.
Letting us record.
And welcome to America.
Thank you very much. I know you guys are having an exciting day today. So
I am actually, last night I was very happy. You know what? Two things you can never argue with people and become right about is politics and religion.
Yes.
Because everyone has their own opinions and their own views, and who's to say that one is better than the other? So
yeah,
you just value both. But personally, I was very happy to see the way things went last night, but only because I don't know. You know, if Trump can back those words up, I'm happy to watch.
Well, we'll see.
And be a part of it. It's exciting.
One thing we know for sure is that we're in a great space, and we're going to get some amazing information from a pioneer. And you said it. You were joking with me before when we were in the front, and you saw the pioneer, and you said that's how you know you're old.
It's true.
But
you're old when you're a pioneer.
No, that means that you were doing something before it was cool. Before everybody else knew it was cool.
When I fought, nobody wanted to fight. Everyone goes, "You're crazy." I had a guy who was a bartender, and he comes in, he goes, "Where were you last week?" I go, "I was in Japan." He goes, "Japan?" He goes, "What were we doing over there?" I go, "Oh, just fighting." He goes, "Fighting and what? Boxing or karate or kickboxing?" I go, "No, it's back then we said Vale Tudo." I go, "It's no holds barred." It wasn't no holds barred. I go, "It's submission. We call it submission fighting. You can punch, you can kick, you can throw, take down, and submit." And he goes, "Wow." He goes, "That's crazy. You actually fought in that?" And he goes, "What's the odds on getting killed?" And I go, "Oh, I think there's enough rules that stop that." I go, "It's not as extreme as it sounds." And I go, "So what do you do?" And he goes, "I'm a race car driver. I drive around the track about 200 miles an hour." And I go, "That's crazy." He goes, "Oh, no, you're protected." And I was like, "Oh." So everyone's ideal of protection or craziness is obviously different,
but
especially back then.
Of course, but what's interesting when you talk about that is that nowadays MMA has become this thing. It's part of the culture. It's so much part of the culture that if you're if you're a young person, you're going to your first jiu-jitsu class or your first wrestling, I think you could take for granted that not so long ago this was unheard of. People didn't mainstream do this. Accountants were going to MMA classes, and people weren't watching fights on TV. So, and that's really not that long ago.
Now everyone's an expert, even moms. They're like, "Billy, come on, you guys, don't fight with Johnny. Just shoot in, take him down, and armbar him. Let's get going."
What made you want to do something, especially back then, before it was a thing like,
this is why I was doing all different types of martial arts throughout my entire career. I started out in 1974 in judo. My mom got me in judo, so I was competing in judo. And then I got a street fight, and I wanted to learn how to kick and punch. So I went to the movie theater, and back then there was a movie called Game of Death that was in the movie theater. I saw Enter the Dragon, like a private screening, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is a cool movie." And then I saw Game of Death in the movie theater. I remember, and I go, "Man, I got to learn that stuff. I got to learn how to fight like that." So Bruce Lee became a kind of an idol of mine, and so around at that time we had a karate teacher that was down the road, and it was all sparring, so I loved it. So for me, it was good because it was learning how to kick. It was taekwondo, but it was sport, and he was a full contact fighter, so everything was based on fighting and using what you learned to fight. So then I got into that in 6th grade, and then my dad goes, "You should learn a real martial art. You should learn how to box. That's a real martial art." So he brought me to Golden Gloves boxing in 8th grade. So then I learned how to take a punch, learned how to get hit, see stars, never been knocked out, knock on wood somewhere. But I boxed Golden Gloves. I competed in Golden Gloves in the Midwest and in Minnesota, and traveled around a lot and competed in point karate matches, full contact karate. And then I got hooked up with, in 1982, I got hooked up with a man named Rick Fay. He came to my karate school. He was doing a seminar on Kali, which was sticks. These guys just were using like dowel rods.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw him do some focus mitt stuff, and I was like, "Whoa, that's cool." And I go, "That guy's got to be a boxer." And he's like teaching all the different footwork. And I was watching, and I go, "Oh yeah, that guy's definitely a boxer." And then I saw him do trapping. And I was like, "Whoa, what's that?"
Mm-hmm.
It looks like that Bruce Lee stuff. And then all of a sudden he started doing all these destruction on the arms and the hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh my God, that's cool." And the guy kicked, he just struck the guy's leg. And I was like, "Oh." And then all of a sudden he went into all the wrist lock flow, and then 2 locks on the ground. I was like, that is a complete martial art. So, and I watched the way he taught, and he was like really friendly and a stud, and just had a command of all different martial arts and all different ranges. And he kept talking about the ranges. And it was just basically a seminar that he did at my karate school I think it was once a week or maybe once a month.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a group of people. And that's when I quit karate, and I just started training with him in this old garage-style gym that was like hardwood floors and cement walls in Minnesota. And walked in, he had all these cool heavy bags and a tire tree for sticks. And I go, "What's that for?" He goes, it's a heavy bag for sticks." And then he took and he brought this kid out, and I'm like looking at him and go, "I know him. How do I know him?" I competed against this kid in gymnastics. He was a year older than me, and his name was Greg Nelson.
Oh.
And Greg's just wailing on this thing with the sticks, and I was like, "Oh my God, I got to learn that." And then I watched Greg kick the tie pads, and I was like, "Wow, that guy hits hard. I got to learn that stuff." And then I walked into school one time, and Rick and Greg had headgear and fighting gear on, and all the shields and all the pads, and they were stick fighting, beating the living shit out of each other, literally. And then they were slugging it out. He stripped him, and then he's kneeing him and elbow him, and then one guy got thrown. They're on the ground, punch each other in the face, and I'm sitting there like, "Oh my God, this is perfect. This is real. This is real fight. I got to learn this." And they go, and they look, and they go, "You out of here!" And then they kicked me out because the school wasn't open yet, but they were just sparring, and so they locked the door, and I had to sit outside and wait. It was Greg Nelson and Rick Fay. They locked me out of their school. I was sitting out there with my girlfriend, just going, "Oh."
So it was a natural progression. Basically, you were constantly looking for something and another way.
Combining everything.
Yeah.
I wanted to combine all arts
Mm-hmm.
because I thought everything had its place, but I didn't think there was one thing better than everything, because I knew that you had to learn how to punch and get hit and take a punch. And some guys love to just slug, but they have no skill.
Right.
So they're like, "I want to fight." It's like, "Well, do you have any boxing or kickboxing?" And they're like, "Oh, I just like to fight." I was like, "Okay, you should refine your skill a little bit and get some skill sets, and learn how to grapple." And then I got guys that are good wrestlers. They go, "All I know is how to take guys down and hold them and hit them."
How do you think though that, because again nowadays people have an idea that you mix things, but the fact that you were thinking about that long ago is abnormal, because back then people did, like you said, they did whatever art they chose, and people believed like religion, like religion and politics. They believed that
so
was
much.
the thing, to the point where there was no conversation about it. Like I think a lot of people nowadays that come to jiu-jitsu or anything, they don't realize that the arguments before were, no, this style would
versus
kick
style.
this style's ass.
Yeah, that's why they had the style spots.
And people believed 100%. Like if you were a karate guy, karate's the best thing in the world.
Right.
It beats everything. And if you were a black belt, you were like this deadly weapon. No one could possibly beat you, right? And so for you back then to be going, no, you gotta look at this, you gotta look at that, and this is something like it's got to be complete. That's a weird thing to be thinking about back then.
Well,
it's unusual.
Well, this is why, because I was a striker. I started in judo. I mean, I played all these sports when I was little, and my mom goes, "You should do judo," and I go, "Do you think I need another sport?" And she goes, "It might be good if you do an individual sport," because I always got mad. Like if you're on a team and maybe you didn't start. You sat on the bench. They're like, "You're not going to start. You sit on the bench." And you didn't get to play, and your team loses, you're a loser. I go, how am I a loser? I didn't even get to play.
Mm-hmm.
So since you're part of the team, you're a loser. So I'm like, I want to do something for myself. So when I did the judo, I went in there and I beat everybody, and then that sparks it. I'm like, man, I should do more of this. My mom goes, you should get into more individual sports. Maybe gymnastics would be good. And I was like, she goes, you're on a team, but your performance kind of justifies how well you're going to do. So then I got into gymnastics in 8th grade, and with a mixture of taekwondo for flexibility, I practiced yoga, stretching. So I was a stretch instructor, and I was really into flexibility stuff and gymnastics, and then boxing. Because boxing is like meat and potatoes. Like, you know, somebody shoves you, they're either probably going to shoot on you or they're going to slug your face.
Right.
So I wanted to know how to have good hands, not get hit, and temper my chin too. That's the thing. You get a guy. There are always arguments. What's better, Wing Chun or boxing? I go, well, look at it like this. How many times do boxers get hit in the face in one round when they spar? Now, when you're practicing Wing Chun and you're doing all your drills, how many times does a Wing Chun man get punched in the face while he's practicing Wing Chun? They go, well, they can't be hit. And I go, but what if they are?
Yeah.
They go, but they can't be hit. I go, of course, everybody can be hit. If a boxer's who's so good at moving his head and he gets hit, how many times in the middle of a round? It's how well you can take a punch.
Yeah.
So you need to temper your chin, not just your skill to attack, but your defensive skills.
Right.
So the whole thing, objective with jiu-jitsu is self-defense, self-defense, self-defense. And then I'm like, well, how do you defend against a guy that's going to slug your face in? And that's where the MMA came in. It was like, so we used to grapple, we put gloves on, and I go, instead of starting up, let's start on our knees, and we're going to box and we're going to grapple. And on the ground, you can punch my head.
And this is how you start
in the garage.
Yeah. So you go from
no mats.
You go from the garage. You go
no
from
mats.
The real old school.
Then we got like old mats from the college, you know. And the funny thing is, we never cleaned those things.
Yeah.
And we never had ringworm either.
Yeah.
Nor did we get impetigo.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing.
Weird.
When you hear, you know, for me, I hear like stories like that from those old days, and now we're in like this beautiful big place to see like where it comes, like the road, right? That's like, it's a really cool thing. And also how you developed what you did in your training, and now developed it into what you share with people around the world, because this is the world headquarters.
I think
for
your
approach.
mentality, the realistic approach to things is very important. And instead of shoving one thing down somebody's throat, obviously if you're a master at one thing, it's spectacular and you want to learn from that person.
Yeah.
But you also have to give people some options, because maybe the one thing that you're giving them isn't particularly the best thing for them, because everyone's body style is different, you know, and so that's why there's different styles of jiu-jitsu now.
Yeah.
I mean, not once did I ever take a seminar from a high-level black belt. And he goes, okay, we're going to teach a triangle. And I go, oh my God, really? I already know the triangle. No, well, actually, here's my thought and my theory. I don't know his version of the triangle, or his version and his version. And every single person that taught the triangle taught it a little differently.
Right.
Or their version of it, or their tweak on it. And that's what's interesting, is because it's actually a sport and an art that's actually been developed differently to different body styles. Carl Gotch, Billy Robinson. I got to train with both of them. Rob Kamen, my sparring partner for a couple fights. Yeah, the guy is unbelievable.
So you mentioned jiu-jitsu and also wrestling, and I think what you do here is very unique, and it's known for being unique because you're mixing catch wrestling and jiu-jitsu.
For me, my mentality and style of what I do and what I teach is where the wrestling and the catch wrestling shakes hands with jiu-jitsu. There's no this or that. It's combined.
Right.
And if you look at like whose shirt you're wearing right now, Bowles Gracie wrestled and did sambo and jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And so the wrestling mentality was in his game when he would attack, and he was aggressive, more top game.
Yeah.
Take down and attack, and very aggressive. And if you look at some of the old footage with Hickson rolling with Hose, Hickson was on his back a lot. And then when Holes passed away from his accident, God rest his soul, Hickson took up where he left off. So Hickson emulated that game, and same thing. I mean, Hickson's guard is amazing. Literally would put his hands in his pants and he'd say, "Pass my guard." And I think possibly there might have only been one person that did that. That was from Alliance. What's his name? I'll come back and remember it. But anyways, nobody could pass the guard. We were all sitting there going, "How's his guard? Legs so good." And it was his ability to move his legs and feel energy and move his hips.
Yeah.
Hands in the belt. That was his drill and his game.
Yeah.
So his guard the ability to pass, his ability to retain the guard was amazing. And then he would sweep and then he'd get on top. And he would wait for you to make a mistake. Boom, he's on you in a second.
Right.
And that's the epitome of jiu-jitsu so for Hickson, at his level, it was totally different. Because he could actually take things from you.
Right.
He would tell you what he's going to do, and he would take them from you. To take something from somebody like that after you told him you're going to do that, you have to be a very high-level grappler.
Yeah.
Then there's another where you actually set them up, you bait them to do something, and then you catch them. And then there's another where you wait till they make a mistake, and you capitalize on that mistake.
Right.
And they say that jiu-jitsu should work under every circumstance on every individual that you train with. Listen. I've gone with some guys that are 400 and some pounds that were laying on me, and I'm trying to get out from it. And and the other is these heavyweight wrestlers. I was at Brock's camp. You got Cole Conrad, you got Brock Lesnar, you got Marty Morgan, you got all these top Minnesota wrestlers, and when you're under them, that's it. You're under them.
Yeah.
They're on you. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, what if there was punching involved right now? Well, there would be an opening possibly for you to, maybe that could be a chance to get out, but it would also give him another ability to control the crap out of you and punch your face in.
Right. Yeah.
While you're trying to do submissions. So the wrestling is a big part of that. And it's funny because I had one of my old training partners, he was actually really good he was one of Hickson's top guys. And he was under Hickson in the old days, I remember, and we used to roll, and this guy got really good really quick. His name was Mark Eckhart. And I hadn't rolled with Mark for years, and then he's in Orange County, and I called him, and I said, "Hey, you want to come in and train a little bit?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, I can finally get this guy back, hopefully." But anyways, he came in, and I snapped him down, and I went on top, and he sat out and he did 3 things, and I go, "Mark, where do you wrestle at?" And he goes, "I never wrestled." And I was like, "Well, where did you learn that?" He goes, "Hickson." I'm like, "That's not jiu-jitsu, that's wrestling." So there is wrestling in his game, obviously, because of the fact that sometimes to get out of stuff, if you can't sweep, you got to scramble, wrestling, to get out, and sit-outs, and hip heists, and a lot of it. Anyways, as far as athleticism goes, Hickson is an unbelievable athlete. So I think if he was a Kyokushin or Shotokan karate, he would still be awesome, great at whatever. It didn't matter what he did because he was such an athlete.
We got to go to one of his seminars recently, and after the seminar, of course, everybody who knew that we were there, I got the emails from all my friends that train, and they were like, "So, is it as good? Is he as good?"
Yeah, nobody has any idea.
Yeah.
But here's the thing too, his son now, Crone, trains like Hickson used to train. So Crone has really just stepped his game up. He was coming up, and then all of a sudden he just changed. And I've heard the way he's been training is just crazy. And the thing is when you draw with somebody, or if you might lose, that should light a fire in your ass. You need to have a loss, because what happens is that's your fuel to your fire.
Right.
And if you're in my gym, in my room, and you're beating everyone in here, you need to go find a new room. Because that means that you're comfortable, and you're going to be lazy, and you're going to have a big ego.
Yeah.
You can't have a big ego in a room where you walk in and you don't know if you're going to get tapped out or tap somebody out. But because in the end, it doesn't matter, because it's practice.
Right.
And we don't talk about practice.
Yeah.
We don't sit and talk about practice. We talk about our matches, our up-and-coming events, and our fights. That's what's important.
Yeah.
You are supposed to get submitted. You are supposed to get taken down. You are supposed to get your face punched in.
Yeah.
In the pressure test, you're supposed to get your ass kicked and handed to you. You got fresh guy after fresh guy after fresh guy for every single round.
Do you find that people coming in nowadays, like they that's a hard thing for them to learn, that in training is where you tap. Training is where you...
No, not at all.
No? They feel
No
like
way.
they're...
I go, smile.
Yeah.
You're now learning.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, this guy's like, oh, I can't believe it. Oh, I got submitted. And I go, you're a white belt. You're a wrestler. So what? Guess what? You're learning. I go, did you think you're going to walk into my school and submit everybody? You learn most of your submissions, leg locks, out videos.
Mm-hmm.
He's good at leg locks, but he learned them on videos.
Yeah.
I go, listen, just to be honest with you, I go, you're a white belt in jiu-jitsu with a gi on. There's no leg locks. You could do an Achilles lock, but you're not even good at that. So you're doing toe holds and heel hooks and knee bars. I go, that's not even allowed. Mm-hmm. I go, learn the other aspects of jiu-jitsu before you go for the legs.
So for you, when we were talking like the wrestling, you said like the wrestling, jiu-jitsu, it's all seamless. It's all seamless and it all belongs together.
All together.
A lot of people that are doing jiu-jitsu nowadays, if I said the word to them, if I said like catch wrestling, they would have no clue what I'm talking about. So
well,
like,
more of them, but
yeah.
some of them because of the controversy.
Yeah.
Like they haven't seen firsthand. I know a lot of people that haven't seen the firsthand. It's the style.
Right.
Predominant wrestling, and then just a lot of attacks. In the end, like it's comparative styles, but a lot of the guys that were good wrestlers didn't learn very many submissions. They weren't taught all the submissions that, like in Shudo, for me, there's 10 lock flows,
Okay.
which is approximately 150 locks. Now, what percentage of all those work? The ones you get good at. It's not about 150 locks. It's not about doing 150 locks 2 times. It's about doing 2 locks 150 times.
Right.
Because you get good at for competition. But so am I supposed to teach the only 2 submissions that I love to all my students? But what if they don't work for them?
Right.
You have to teach more. So to understand as a teacher, you have to learn more stuff. And it should be high percentage stuff.
Right.
So you kind of got to weed through stuff. It's better to have more to weed through than less. But in the end, for competition, you've got a page of information, and you take the first sentence, and that's what you're going to compete with.
Right.
Along with the fact that you run every day, and you probably lift weights, and you do body weight exercise, and you grapple, and you roll, and you roll, and you roll.
What would you say, like?
And you drill.
Like, what would be a good example of, let's say, something that you do and somebody does in jiu-jitsu, either like a submission or kind of way of thinking, way of setting something up, versus the way you might look at it from a catch perspective. So, like we were talking before, we were kind of joking around about, let's say Kimura, and somebody's grabbing onto the pants, or they're grabbing their shorts, or they're grabbing their gi. Is there a different way that you might approach that from catch wrestling perspective versus jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
And how can the worlds combine? Let's say?
Well, okay, so catch wrestling is a lot more aggressive because it's attack.
Mm-hmm.
So, like in Shudo, the reason catch wrestling was first of all, nobody knew Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back then. But catch wrestling was perfect for submission fighting because it was punch, kick, takedown, and submit. So as soon as you're going for that takedown, you're immediately attacking. And so they go, here's all these submissions. You get good at your submissions, and that's your move, that's your go-to, that's your bread and butter, that's what you're going to use. And for some guys, it's shoulder triangles and arm triangles, and some guys, it's leg triangles, and some guys, it's arm bars, and some guys, it's V-arm locks and chicken wings, and some guys, it's legs only. And so, if you're a good grappler, situations present themselves. So if you're only good at arm bars and the guy's putting his foot in your face, why wouldn't you rip his foot off? Or if you're going for a foot and the guy's kicking and defending really good, why wouldn't you use that to pass the guard to go back and attack the upper body? So you have to I think you have to understand. But for everybody, if you're going against a really good guy, sometimes all you can get out of it is an ankle lock because that's the weakest point in their body.
Right.
I knew, like, a long time ago when I used to grapple with some of the top wrestlers, I knew one of the only submissions I could catch it with were leg locks. because that's where they're weak.
And you've been doing leg locks and showing leg locks for so long, and
Long
now in
time.
jiu-jitsu it's become like kind of very fashionable these days.
It was booed and looked down upon. People didn't even know the names of moves when we were doing them.
I remember when I started jiu-jitsu, it was like it was considered kind of like a cheap thing to go for.
Now it's the epitome of the world
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu championship. There's a girl knee bar and another girl up on the screen. I'm like, that's the epitome of jiu-jitsu right now, is a knee bar.
Yeah.
That wasn't even allowed. Nobody even knew those back then. Now it's like that's the portrait of jiu-jitsu.
It's
a
kind
knee
of-
bar.
yeah,
That
it's-
privately, and then I got the group classes with them, and then I got a totally different skew on jiu-jitsu when I went to the Machados, because the first thing at Hickson's they said, don't open your guard. If you open your guard gets passed. The first thing at the Machados, when I went on the floor, they go, open your guard. How is your guard supposed to get any better if you don't learn dexterity with your legs? You need to circle and move your legs. He goes, open your guard. And I'm just thinking, leg locks all the time. If your legs are, I'm going to attack your legs. And so I started attacking everyone's legs, and Master Higgin goes, hey, show us something that you don't know. We know you know leg lock. Show us something you don't know. Let's see the other aspects of your game.
That's a great.
And then I was like, oh, shit. And it was good because I have upper body attacks, but you know, when people are putting their feet in my hands, it's like, oh, okay, I guess leg lock.
Yeah,
And
but I
just
think
to
like,
raise awareness of the leg lock situation, and then pass, and then, but it's just interesting. Just the mentalities were different.
But I think for people that are training now and want to improve, like what you just said is huge, because like it's such a great lesson, because we like to do what we're good at, and why wouldn't we? Especially like when we roll. Like I like to be. You may not have noticed, but I'm not the biggest guy. And when I train at home, most of the guys are like, you know, big dudes. They're like I give up 100 pounds easy to them.
Wow.
So when I get them on their back, I like to crush them and try to feel like I weigh 300 pounds. I don't like to be on my back with them because frankly it hurts in my bones. And one week I decided, I was like, man, my guard is weak because I never spend any time with it. I got to start pulling these guys into my guard. And I couldn't bring myself to do it.
You know why?
Because it sucked so bad.
Well, not just that, but also it's your ego.
Yes.
Like when you're learning new stuff, just expect to fail. When you're learning the half guard sweeps, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail miserably. That doesn't mean you stop. That means you just keep going until it gets easier and easier.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're not good at the guard, put yourself in the guard. If you're not good at retaining the guard, if guys are passing your guard, you just put yourself back there. Put yourself back there. They start to pass, go to your knees.
Yeah, and you're right.
Or regard.
It's ego. I was so bummed with myself the week that I said I was going to do it, and then a few days into that week I hadn't done it yet. I was so upset with myself because I knew why I hadn't done it, and then I made a deal. That inner voice to start talking. I started making deals. I said, okay, tomorrow you go in. Tomorrow, the first thing you do is you grab and you pull guard. You grab and you pull guard, and you grab and you pull guard, no matter what else happens. And as soon as I did it, I felt better because I knew I was finally going to get better.
Well, at least you know
at
you're
it.
working for yourself. And then the other thing is you can't have a fragile ego.
Yeah.
If your ego is that fragile, then you might as well just roll with everybody and smash everybody. You want to go in there. The best way to get over your ego right off the bat is roll with 3 people and let them submit you. And just give it to them.
Yeah.
Don't blatantly, but go, oh my God, well, that was a good armbar. That way you go, oh, okay, all right, good. I can accept getting caught and tapped out.
Right.
And if it's that highly of a competitive school where someone's like, bro, I just tapped him out, and they're on the internet, well then, I don't know, is that the type of training in the place you want to be at?
No.
I mean, because that's not the betterment for your soul. That's not the betterment for you to evolve as a martial artist, is when guys are always chomping at the bit. Because what about the guys that don't compete?
Yeah.
What do you do with those guys?
And so, since we're sitting out in front of world headquarters, it being a world headquarters, it means you've got other affiliates around the world, right? So what's your mission with your affiliates? What are you trying to accomplish with CSW? What's the goal to try and spread what you've learned and share this?
Okay. Right now, I have 3 working on 4 aspects. The first is all no-gi grappling. No-gi grappling. That's with takedowns and throws and escapes and submissions. I have levels 1 to 10. 1 to 5 is all your basics. 6 to 10 is all the secondary positions. So 1 to 5 is kneeling, mount, crossbody, guard, back control. Level 6 to 10 is butterfly, all your different guards, butterfly guard, active guard, stretch guard, side half guard, flat half guard. Then you have Keisagatami, knee on belly, Hon Keisagatami, and north and south. Those are the secondary positions. So that's what we do, is we address all that, which is a lot of information. Then we have a gi program 4 days a week. It's funny because the retention of my students lasts a lot longer when we added the gi.
Interesting.
Now, there was a long time I didn't have the gi because I was still fighting, and I couldn't see any reason to put a gi on and spend time in a gi when I was getting ready for fights and had to worry about the guys hitting double legs and punching my face in. But then after, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back to what I loved. First of all, was to roll and work judo and jiu-jitsu on the ground with the gi and just have fun at it, because there's so many options and there's so many different arts that can be applied. You know, everyone has a different cool choke to show you with the gi. And then if you're not good with the gi, they go, I'm not good at the gi. I go, remove the grips, strip the grips, and pretend you don't have a gi on.
That's it.
And then get to a good position.
Right.
You know, don't stand in an inferior position.
And for people that aren't in California, that aren't around here, that can come train with you, obviously there's seminars, and your DVDs are well known around the world. But you also have off your website, you have now some online stuff that people can start to learn all these things that we've been talking about.
I have over 1,200 videos on my website, which is all a lot of different stuff. And I've got a lot of different coaches on there that are teaching in my camps.
Yeah.
And the reason I have my camps is so I can bring all these other guys in and learn from them, not just to share, but also so I can learn. And I want to continue to learn from everybody. I'll have a guy, he's a white belt and he's new, and all of a sudden he'll do something crazy and he'll get out and I go, what was that? How did you do that? Do that again. He did it again. And suddenly you're learning. So you learn from everybody. It doesn't matter.
How often do you have these big camps? I've seen some video from it and they look unbelievable.
I have a coach development program where I bring in all the instructors from all over, and it's free as long as they're part of the website. And what they do is they get 3 free camps a year. And so again, I have different aspects. So the first aspect is the no-gi grappling.
Right.
The second aspect is the STX kickboxing, which is the Inosanto blend of kickboxing, which is Thai, Muay Thai, Savate, boxing, Taekwondo, Shudo, Junfan kickboxing. It's all combined into a kickboxing striking system. And it's all set. There's 5 levels. Then I have an MMA curriculum program that's being filmed right now. And then the last is our jiu-jitsu program, so that we're actually having credentials per belt, so we could stripe and give each belt with the 4 stripes to each belt.
Awesome.
So that's our last. Our last is the jiu-jitsu. Jim, you should have a climbing rope.
Carl Gotch used to do a lot of stuff with the rope, right?
Yeah. Climbing gi. That's a climbing gi.
Oh, that's awesome. I've never seen
Try it.
I've never seen one of those in the gym.
It originally started in judo for grip work. How about this? Watch this. Try that. And then just use one hand and try to climb. Yeah. That's your fingertips, that's your grips.
Oh yeah, that's a nightmare.
Right?
That's a nightmare.
So yeah, all grip work. Good stuff.
That's amazing. I've only seen people do like, a little pulley thing or something with it.
No.
But the idea of hanging something like that—that's brutal.
Yeah, that's I went to Germany, and the judo team in Germany had gi ropes, and I looked at my friend, I go, you got to make those. So he did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Spectacular.